So we finally made it after a long journey out to Wyoming. We were so excited to be back in Grange hunting, and so our first morning we went out together as a team and we started glassing the fields and trying to find animals, and we watched a beautiful sunrise that first day. I remember just thinking, wow, the sky is beautiful out here. You can see the sun coming up beautifully. It was such an awesome, cool October morning that first day. And after a couple hours, we didn't see any deer. So we decided to move across the road to another patch of fields that we could look at to try to glass for some deer. And so we went across, and all of a sudden we stumbled upon this beautiful group of bucks. There was, I think, at least 2 or 3 shooters in that group. And the only problem was that the wind was right in their face. And so if we started our stalk right away, the wind would really mess us up. So we decided we were going to sit back and sit down and just glass them for a couple hours and just wait for, number one, the wind to get right, and then number 2, to get some lunch, because we were hungry after a morning of glassing and trying to find some animals. We were hungry, so we ate some lunch. Finally, after a couple hours of sitting there and glassing them, the wind changed, and Wes, our guy, decided, you know what, it's time to make the stalk. So me and Kevin, our cameraman, Wes, our outfitter, and Megan, our outfitter's daughter, we started a stalk, a pretty extensive stalk that happened for probably at least 2 to 3 hours. And this stalk entailed a lot of things. It entailed us crawling on our hands and knees. It entailed us sitting on our behinds and scooting along. It had us crawling on our bellies across the fields because we didn't want to be detected, because this year as we went out, the sunflower stalks were not as high as they had been other years. So we had to really stay low on this stalk. And I remember it being funny because our cameraman's a pretty tall guy, and so for him to stay low, it was a pretty hard feat. But I remember we tried our best to stay low, and after about 2 or 3 hours, we finally made it to about, I want to say, 125 yards or so. That was the goal. And Wes's daughter, Megan, she was going to be the first shooter in our group. We had decided that before we started the stalk, that the first person that would shoot at these bucks was going to be Megan. So we knew we wanted to get close enough that she would be comfortable. So Wes thought right around 125 yards, he felt like we couldn't get any closer. So just as we are about to set up, for some reason we just decided to, think this is going to be the spot that we're going to shoot, and we're going to make it happen right here. And next thing we know, Megan shoots at the first buck. A buck stands up, and it's one of the shooter bucks that we had labeled as a shooter, and one of the bucks stood up, and Megan takes a shot. And right away, we didn't know if she missed the buck or hit the buck, but right away, all 7 or 8 bucks in the group stood up and started running off. And at that time, that was my opportunity. In the heat of the moment, I pulled my gun up, tried to take a pop shot at a buck, one that I thought was a very beautiful buck. It's actually the buck that maybe we think that my brother would shoot later. But all I saw was a rack kind of running a little bit away from me, and I just pulled my gun up, shot, but pretty much the camera and the footage told us right away that we had missed that buck. But all in all, it was just a great experience that first day, starting off on a beautiful morning with the glassing over the beautiful sunrise and the beautiful scenery, and then the beautiful stalk that we had. It was a long, grueling stalk, but it was awesome to be that close to some beautiful animals that very first day of the hunt.
So after that morning and that mid-afternoon hunt transpired with all them bucks, later that afternoon, evening, it was getting towards evening, and me and Wes decided there was a little house just down on the other side of the road, just down a little ways, that we were going to climb up on top of the roof to get a good vantage point to look out over these sunflowers. Because these sunflowers were pretty high. I mean, they weren't obviously over our heads high, but they were pretty high. And so to be able to see down through the sunflowers, we could, get a better vantage point. And so we did. And as we were sitting up there, we're glassing, and we see these 3 bucks standing on the one end, probably, I don't know, probably 800 to 1,000 yards away at this moment. And we turned out to be whitetails, which it's very irregular for whitetails to be up in that area. But we could tell one was pretty decent, but from that distance, obviously, we couldn't get the spotting scope on them because it was, like I said, we're up on top of the roof there, so we couldn't really get the spotting scope on them. But so we couldn't really tell what they were, so we wanted to get a closer look. So we got the other guys with us and got the cameraman, and the cameraman got ready, all of his gear together, and we got all of our gear together and got ready. And obviously Megan was still hunting with us, and So anyway, so as we got all of our things together, we gathered up and headed out. And as we start getting closer, they got significantly closer, and we got the glass up on them, the spot and scope up on them, and we realized that one buck, there was only one buck standing at this moment, was that buck. And I realized at that moment he wasn't a mature deer, he was a younger buck, but a good deer for Megan. We've been glad for Megan to shoot that buck, absolutely. And so we're going to continue to make the stalk. And I remember making the stalk up through, and I let everybody go out ahead of me because I'm not that important at this moment, thinking I'm doing any shooting of any kind. And all of a sudden, as we got closer and closer, some of the bucks started getting up the feed a little bit more. And I look off the one side, and I can see there's another deer there. I see another body, and I was like, man, there's a fourth deer there I didn't see before. And sure enough, as he put his head up, I seen he was a mature deer, and I said, we were pretty positive that was probably the buck that we glassed up on top, but obviously we didn't know from that distance. We just seen a pretty good rack. And so anyway, so now that there's 4 buck there, so I'm game as a shooter if possible. Obviously, I want Megan to kill her first buck, and I was really, bad. I wanted it so bad for her to be able to be there. Because her dad has put a lot of time in there with our family over the years, and so I really wanted. It would have been awesome to be able to witness that. But as we progressed up front and crawling, and all of a sudden they started coming across the field and into our row, and at that moment, Wes was like, "We're going to set her up. It's a little bit farther than he wanted. He told us originally that he wanted like a 150-yard shot max for her." But obviously, if the conditions were right, everything was good, he didn't mind her shooting a little further. And so anyway, so we got her out there, and I think it was probably 225 yards, and she was standing on the sticks. It wasn't a really good, comfortable situation for her, and she was telling him, I'm not steady, I can't get on him, I'm not steady, and it's kudos to her. That's the most important thing when you're teaching a young hunter is she needs to be fully confident in what she's doing, and that was kudos to her for that. Absolutely, her dad has taught her well, that is for sure. To be 11 years old and not feel comfortable with the shot, that's fantastic. So anyway, and so I remember him leaning over to her, and he said to her, do you mind letting Derek, would you like to see Derek shoot this? And she's like, yeah, I would. And I said, okay. I said, hey, and I'm all good for that. I don't mind it. And it was a mature deer, very mature. Class 8-pointer, beautiful buck. And so we decided I got up on the sticks. She moved off. I got up on the sticks and got the scope ready. Was in the scope, and I had a little bit of an opening during that moment. Well, it took a couple steps, and when it took that couple steps, I thought I could squeeze it through this little gap into the sunflower patches. And like I said, it's a 225 yards. I'm shooting 300 Winchester Magnum, and I didn't figure anything would hinder it. And obviously, hindsight's 20/20, but I should have waited a little bit longer. But anyway, anyways, I took a shot and 225 yards, which I feel very confident in my weaponry. But it just on the footage when we originally saw it, we thought originally that I hit it because of his reaction to it, the way he jumped the fence later. It just looked all signs of a hit. But we didn't know, and so we went back to the house and reviewed the footage and whatever. And after reviewing the footage, we seen it was a little low, possibly hitting, which it did hit this sunflower pod, which was a pretty big pod because probably this size round shape, I would imagine, and thick. Very thick. And so. And I never thought a bullet couldn't even enter that, but apparently, obviously, it can't. And but we thought maybe it deflected, hit him, wounded him. We weren't for sure, and we were worried about it. And so next morning, we gathered ourselves, went to church, Sunday dinner, and after Sunday dinner, came back all the way down to Grange, and tried to look for this buck. And as we were pulling up through the field, in the same row, it was in the middle of the day, like 2 o'clock in the afternoon maybe. Same row, same everything. That buck with the 3 other bucks that were with him jumped up and took off. Not a scratch on him. So clean miss. So I'm thankful for that because obviously I'd hate to wound a deer at all. But it was an experience that it was awesome. And beautiful buck, and he lives on to tell another day. So on Monday morning, We got up early. It was probably 3 o'clock in the morning, and proceeded to the ranch. And so me and our guide Wesley and Kevin, our cameraman, we were in one vehicle, and Dad and Darren were in another vehicle. And they were going to check out another little place, we call it the little pasture. And then we were going to sit on top of this little ridge right next to the road so we can see both sides of the sunflower strips. And so as we pulled up into the vehicle, and we were just, literally, it was breaking day. We were just there, and I swing open the door, and all of a sudden Wes says, right in front of us. They just crossed the road. So these 4 bucks come across right in front of us, and 2 of them were absolute, no doubt about it, shooters. And so we decided to, we got our gear out, and they were out there a little ways.
Here we are, southeast Wyoming. And we crawled up here. Wes decided to bring his car along. And see him? Got some mule deer spotted. Group on both sides of the road. Got 9 buck over here and 4 buck over here. Dad and Darren are waiting for us down here. But we might make a play on one of these bucks here. Looks pretty nice. We'll see what happens. Stay tuned.
But I still wanted Dad and Darren to be the first shooters. I didn't want to kill one right away myself. And they were just across the ridge, so we made a phone call quick to them, and yeah.
Yeah, we were just getting ready to open our last gate to go into this little pasture when Dad's phone rang, and he yelled out to me. I was opening the gate. He said, "Darren, you gotta get in the vehicle. They got bucks. They got shooter bucks. They're looking at them right now." So we hopped back into the vehicle and drove all the way around from the pasture back over to the little ridge that they were up on. And we got up to them and we're like, let us see these bucks. Because Dereck had told us that I was the first shooter and Dad was going to be the second shooter. So we know that if there was 2 shooter bucks in this little group, and then we were probably going to be the ones to shoot at them. So we got up there and we right away glassed with them and we found these bucks. And I knew, this was the first time I really saw with my own eyes these big bucks like this close. I wanted to shoot this buck. So we decided right then and there that me and Wes and our cameraman Kevin, we would go and start our stalk.
Right, but I think if we want to kill both of these deer, somebody needs to go park at that red gate and then
Walk into that shack.
yeah, probably wouldn't get quite, well, I probably wouldn't get quite to the shack. So that if we spook them going this way.
So that's what you do. You go that direction.
Will you stay here, Glass?
Stay here, Glass.
They were all bedded about 6 or 7 sunflower field rows away from us. So they were about a half a mile away from us or so. So we knew we were going to have a little bit of a journey. But we decided to go up the path a little bit so we could get on an angle beside them and just walk kind of straight toward them from the side. And so the first, 300 or 400 yards, we kind of just walked slowly. We didn't have to get down on our hands and knees like we did the first day. But pretty much the last 100 yards in for the stalk, that's where we got down on our hands and knees and started making the slow, methodical stalk into these deer. And so finally, when we got into the road that we thought these bucks were bedded beside, we started going down that road and try to find a good spot to get within range of shooting them with the rifle. And so we started going down, making the stalk a little bit closer. And Wes said, guys, these bucks are on top of us. And were they ever? These bucks happened to be, I think, only by the time we stopped for our set, I think they're only about 70 yards, 75 yards from our spot that we were going to be sitting. The only problem was that these bucks were bedded as well. So we couldn't really see them. We could see their racks moving when we were glassing them and looking through the binoculars, but we couldn't, there's no shot available. So we had to set up. We found a good spot. We got our the gun up on the hunting sticks, and we sat there for the next, probably almost an hour. We actually had to move spots because the bucks, we felt like we could get a better position about 10 or 15 yards away from where we originally were. So we moved once again, and then we sat there for another 20 or 30 minutes and waiting for these bucks to stand up.
Yeah, and the next, we've done this so much in the past that we realize a lot of these bucks, once you shoot one, to shoot 2 right off the bat at one each other right off the bat in the same bed is difficult. We've done it, but it's difficult. But we've noticed that once you shoot them, they end up getting up and going with their face in the wind. And so Dad and I decided to go downwind of them, or upwind of them, I should say, upwind of them, but off a little bit so we're not going to be downwind of them, to possibly potentially get another shot at the secondary buck.
Yep.
And so we just got settled up and waited, and it was just a waiting game from here on out.
Yeah, I remember that waiting game seemed like it was happening, it was going on forever, and just waiting and waiting, and I would have my gun up and just looking through the scope. I could see the rack moving around. I was getting a little bit more nervous as time was going on, but actually relaxed at the same time. If you can imagine both of those things happen at the same time, because it's just a waiting game. And finally, after what seemed like an eternity, these bucks just, boom, all of a sudden, for whatever reason, decided to stand up. And I remember Wes set me up in a beautiful, beautiful spot for our first shot. As I remember taking the first shot off, hitting the buck, and kind of falling down a little bit and struggling to run. I'm like, I shot this thing. And Wes yelled at me, Darren, put another one in it. So I ejected the shell, put the other one in, shot. Yeah, and I was moving about 100 yards away a little bit, trying to go away from me, shooting it. Got another shot in, and we saw the buck. I think I remember the buck hitting the ground after that. And Wes and I looked at each other like, we got this buck. We got this buck. But next thing you know, stands up again. We're like, what in the world? What's this thing doing? And it would keep going on. And we saw it go off, but it was struggling the whole time. We're like, we got this buck. And we knew these guys played their stalk perfectly. We knew the direction that they were sitting. And these bucks, as Dereck said, headed right with the wind in their nose, and they went right towards them. Yeah, it was... So Dad and I, we're sitting there just waiting, and I originally thought it was going to be a pretty long wait, which actually turned out to be only probably within 20 minutes of us sitting there. We heard a gunshot, and obviously looked up, and it was them. And that buck, we saw that the same thing he just described. That buck got up, we saw it hit the ground, get back up again, hit the ground several different times. But our focus went from that buck when it hit the ground the last time, that from what we saw, our focus went from that buck to the other buck, the other shooter, and it was moseying down, but it wasn't really spooked. It knew something was off, but it wasn't really spooked. And there was other two little bucks with it. And so as it's coming, and Dad's sitting there, and I have to admit, Dad got excited. He really, I haven't seen that in a long time. Dad excited.
Yeah, I know. I haven't seen that in a long time, and usually when I was a kid, I usually was the one that needed to be calmed down. And so now it's kind of reversed. So it's kind of funny, but. And he's sitting there, and I got the bag all propped up for him, and he was waiting. He's like, you want me to shoot him now? I said, wait, he's not out of the sunflowers yet, And I already knew previously what happened to me on that whitetail,
right.
And I did not want that to happen to him. No. And so anyway, we're waiting, and finally, after it seemed like an eternity, which is probably only a minute or two, it finally stepped out in the clearing at about 200 yards, and so he took his time and squeezed the round off, and I hit it perfectly. I mean, double lunged it. I mean, beautifully. And he didn't know where he hit. He's like, "Did I get him?" And I had him on the spot on the glass, and I said immediately, "Yeah." He smoked. He ain't going anywhere. I guess he blood pumping out of him, and he ran just maybe 50 to 80 yards, maybe at max, and fell over. And he was excited, and I was excited for him. And he was using my Pap's 300 Win Mag that Pap made. For himself, and he actually passed away a couple years ago, and so that was the first year Dad's ever shot with that gun. So he was pretty emotional about it, and right to be, because that's an amazing experience, amazing opportunity. Yeah, and after hearing Dad shoot a couple times, and then calling us and saying the buck's down, we got him, then we knew it was our time to go find my buck, right? And so we started following the trail. Not only did we have our memories of where this buck, we saw this buck fall down and go, we saw it leave, but we had the blood trail to follow too. So we started following the blood trail and following it, and never coming up on the buck. And we're like, what in the world? And it's not like it's rhododendron or timber that you can't see through. Right. It's open. Besides the sunflowers, it's open. It's prairie like all around us. Yeah. And we could, where did this buck go? I mean, we knew I hit this buck because we saw it being hit 2 times. I remember Kevin, our camera guy, I'm looking back at the footage and saying, yeah, this buck is hit. And there's definitely a hit in a good spot. Where's this buck going, right? We could not find it. And I remember for the next, I think it was 30 minutes, all of us walked the whole length of the sunflower strip that we thought the buck would have to be in, because it never crossed with the other bucks in front of
in front of Dad and Dereck, they would have seen it come out in front of them if it was coming out, and it never did. There's only 3 bucks that came out with the group with my dad's buck in it, and so we knew it probably had to be in this section of sunflower field. And so we walked. I think we walked between the 5 of us. We walked every single row in that whole field and never found it. So after looking at every single row in the field, one of us thought, well, maybe it went to the other end of the sunflower field and went into the other field. It's like, well, maybe. So we start walking that way. A couple start walking, and all of a sudden I hear somebody shout, "Darren, it's up here!" And we run up, and the buck is about, I don't know, another 100 yards out into the next field beside us, and it's just trotting along. It's struggling. You know, it's going to die at some point, but it's just struggling along. This thing somehow, as we were stalking it, as we were looking for it, as they were going at their buck, it got behind all of us, circled around us. These bucks are smart, and they went all the way around us into another field, and we never saw the thing. So we've had to put at least 2 or 3 more
I'm not
rounds.
sure about you, but I just kept shooting. That's all that mattered. He kept
I was
shooting.
like the rifleman. I was just going to shoot it up until it died. But finally, after a couple more shots, the thing died. So I think I had like 5 shots in this buck, 1 in the horn,
yes,
and 4 in the body.
Yeah.
But after 4 or 5 shots at this deer, finally it
expired.
Expired, and finally so excited to get our hands on these bucks. And
beautiful.
What
buck.
a beautiful moment. Beautiful double kill on 2 different stalks on the same deer in one morning. And by noon that first day, that Monday, Dad and I were tagged out with our bucks. We were happy as can be. Father, son, shooting 2 big bucks. I think mine grossed at 162 and Dad's grossed at like 145, and a beautiful Wyoming mule deer that God blessed us with that Monday.
Dad's buck was probably pushing 8 or 9 years of age. We would guess. I mean, we think he's on the downhill because just his body was absolutely behemoth.
Huge.
Monster body.
Well, here we are. It's October the 3rd, 2022, and an incredible Monday hunt here in the Grange, Wyoming.
Incredible.
And wow, Darren, we doubled up this morning, and we came in early with Wes, of course, Dereck, Kevin, our videographer. Had a lot of action on Saturday, and of course enjoyed the Lord's Day. And here we came today and found a bunch of bucks all bedded up. And Darren, tell them what happened with you.
Yeah, we had to cross about 4 or 5 sunflower fields, and we finally got to where the same field that these bucks were in. And we crawled up about 100 yards and got within 180 yards or so from these bucks, and they were just bedded up. And we had them in our binoculars, had them in the scope, ready to go, and waited around an hour for these deer to stand up. And finally, after an hour of sitting there watching them, this guy stood up and gave me a broadside shot and shot him, and then the other one took off, and this one ran towards Dad.
I mean, to tell you, of course, Dereck and I were sitting about maybe 700-800 yards from them, and Wes put us in a spot where he thought they might go to after the initial shot. And sure enough, like clockwork, 3 more buck came running over to where Dereck and I was. And this is the biggest of them. He's got a massive body, and gave me about a 200-yard shot. And the beautiful thing about it was I shot it with my dad's 300 Winchester Magnum. The last time that gun killed something was when my dad and I hunted together about 17 years ago, when he killed his elk and his whitetail buck. And I took it out there, and it did the job. And Dereck did a great job helping. And so here you have it. What a great day, father, son. And we're not done yet, because we're hoping that Dereck will get a chance to get his tag on a nice mule deer, and then who knows what else is going to happen. So
That's right.
having a great time.
Before we say goodbye, we want our outfitter to come here, Rosengreen Adventures. Wesley Rosengreen put us on these
Of course,
deer.
he's not outfitting us at the moment. He's a family friend. We've been friends for a lot of years. And we're just enjoying family time and having a great time. And so we thank you, Wes. Thanks for a great day, a great hunt. And we're not done. We got Megan, his daughter, her first time hunting. And maybe she'll go out later on this week.
We got my baby brother, Dereck.
And then we got Dereck. Of course, he's the big guy. He's going to probably put his tag on something really nice.
Yep, and then maybe.
Having a great time here in Wyoming. So great hunt.
Thank
you.
Had
a great time, man.
Thanks
good job,
for watching.
everybody. Thank you. Hey, man, great job, buddy. That was awesome.
Double kill again.
Wow.
2 years in a row.
Unbelievable.
Great job.
Unbelievable. God's good.
You know what I remember after that?
What's that?
We stowed them because we were hungry after all this dragging and after all this stalking and after all this, trying to find these deer. So we stashed these bucks in this little bed of trees.
Yeah.
And went to town to get some lunch, and we celebrated a little bit after that.
We did. And so what an experience that was. I mean, being able to kill 2 bucks like that out of the same group, awesome. But prior to that, earlier that morning when we glassed them bucks up that we ended up killing, across the road, while we were waiting for Dad and Darren to come to us, we also glassed up a group of other bucks, and I think a few does as well on the one patch, but a group of other bucks, probably 6 bucks in that group over across the road. And we knew there was one from the day before, maybe 2, but definitely one from the day before, in that whole mishap that we knew was in there, and we knew he was a very nice buck. And so anyway, after we ate lunch and got all that done, and we decided to come back, and we did, and we proceeded to go to the other side of the fence, on the bottom side of the road, and as we were driving through there, we seen all these bucks stand up in the corner, and we seen them mill around or whatever, and so we got out of the vehicles and we were glassing them, and we got them on the spotting scope, and when we got them glassing from the spotting scope, we knew that one buck was definite above all others shooter. So they were milling around there, and finally we got them to bed down, but the wind was dead wrong. I mean, just terrible wind, and we were afraid to get any closer on foot, because we didn't want the wind. And the year before this, we had a lot of mishaps. That was the only year I think we've been out there that we did not kill anything. And it's because we did a bunch of dumb stuff, trying to get on them, these bucks, and not playing the wind right, and the wind swirling on us, and it's just a bunch of stuff. So we were just, this year, being extra cautious of the wind. And so we decided that we were thinking about, what would we do if we brought the truck with them? Would they stand up and go to a different row, so maybe we can have a better, chance at them in a different row? And so we proceeded to take the truck around on the one side of them, up near where some hay bales were. And when we got there, obviously they ended up seeing us. And normally when you're up next to the road, they don't really care as much because they think you're road traffic. But if you start coming down to them, they know that's not quite right. And so anyway, they all proceeded to stand up and jump the fence. And we're on the neighbors, headed in the opposite direction. And I remember thinking to myself, you have got to be kidding me. We just screwed up again. And another missed opportunity. And so kind of bummed out about it. And like, well, maybe we'll just go back to where we originally were and just glass for the rest of the evening, and maybe something else will pop out. It's better than down further into sunflowers that we don't know about. And so we're just sitting there waiting, and we're glassing these bucks, watching these bucks, and they went out in the neighbors pretty far. And I have never, in all my years of hunting out there, and all my years of hunting just generally, but all my years hunting out there, I have never seen this. And Wes has said he's never seen this ever, to where they turned on a dime, no pressure, no nothing, turned on a dime and marched their way back towards that sunflower patch, and jumped the fence again. Like I said, that never happens, and only God. And so they jumped the fence, went back in their same beds, and the wind started picking up a little bit better, pushing out of the northwest a little bit better. And so we decided, you know what, we're going to go back down and hightail it on this other side of this other sunflower row. And we're going to hightail it down there and try to get, like I said, across, because like I said earlier, the rows are only 75 yards apart.
Still blowing that way. Look at that.
Okay, so good on here.
So we hightailed it down there, and like I said before, those rows are 75 yards apart. And so, you know, we were figuring between 150 and 150 yards in that window, range-wise, once we got down to them. But we didn't know exactly where they're at because there's some rolling hills down through there, and so, you know, you don't know which one they're bedded in. And we couldn't see them lay down. At that moment, we just knew they were in there. And so we were kind of getting down, and we wanted to get below them because a lot of times they feed away from the road. So we wanted to get down below them, and the wind was blowing that way, so we have a better wind advantage. And so as we proceeded to get down there closer, Wesley ended up spotting one of the bucks, stood up and was feeding around. So we're like, okay, we're in good shape. We got up there. All of a sudden, and we were only there 20 minutes maybe at max, and a lot of them started standing up and they started feeding exactly like we thought they would. As they fed out in front of us, I'm getting the bipod all set up, and Wes is behind me, kind of glassing which buck it is because I want to know, because I'm not shooting. I don't want to miss, you know, shoot the wrong deer.
I can't see. There's some hills in my way. They come closer.
And our cameraman was trying to get on him. He couldn't get on him. He couldn't get on him. Couldn't find out which one it was. Couldn't see it. Couldn't get on him. And I kept telling me, and eventually told me, he's like, man, you might just have to shoot it. I said, no, I'm going to wait. I said, we have all the time in the world, and it's the first day. I said, we're going to wait. We're going to get this right. And finally, after it seemed like an eternity, which is probably, like I said, only 30 seconds or more, finally he got on him, and he said, oh, there he is. I'm on him.
I see him. You're good. Got him. Yep. Dropped him. That's a big buck. Did you get him? I got him, yeah. Unbelievable, Wes.
I think one Megan missed is in there. He showed up later.
That's a big deer, Wes. That's a big 4-point. Buddy. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable day. Wes, Kevin, come here, buddy. Thank you, buddy. Thank you. Wes, come in here. Come over here. Come sit right over here. What a deer, what a week we've had.
Great.
2 days.
Yeah.
We've shot 3 bucks today. I mean, Darren shot his, then Dad shot his. And then, what an unbelievable stalk. The wind was terrible.
I know, kept switching.
It kept switching all over the place. And the wind was blowing this way, so we're like, we gotta get down. And we got a couple antelope that were bugging us, and we were like, man, we got to get around these antelope. But fortunately enough, we got downwind of them again, and we couldn't figure out if they were from this, if they were that pole or the next pole. But well, they were where we thought they were, bedded up, and they stood up. Perfect. I don't know. What do you think? 200 yards, some shot? 200 yards?
It's about 150.
150, you think? 150 yard shot. What a deer, man! What a deer, man! Beautiful buck. Beautiful buck. Wyoming, Rosengreen Adventures. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Thank you, Wes.
Oh,
appreciate it.
I enjoyed
Thank you,
it.
Kevin. Appreciate it. What a deer. What a buck.
Thank the Lord for a great day.
Oh, my word. What do you think? Good job, buddy. Thanks, buddy.
We just triple killed this, Wesley. Are you kidding? Is that 160 class?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or Saturday.
No, it's not.
We just finished tagging our 3rd deer. Dereck did. The big thunderstorm just came through. Everybody jumped in the truck, and we got a beautiful rainbow here in Wyoming. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. God has been so good to us. His promises are true. And there you have it. Incredible double rainbow.
That's what it is.
Well, we just got done taking the deer out, gutting it out and loading it up, and we just saw this coyote sitting here. So I took a shot at 170 yards and dropped him. Pretty cool. Pretty cool, man.
I mean,
Like I said, I think most of these coyotes are here right now, or pups.
Woo! Woo! There.
We're gonna have a good rest of the call. Oh, no. So after the second day, we're tagged out.
Unbelievable, right?
It's never in the history of we've ever done this. And so we have 5 days left. And so the next day on Tuesday, we had to take care of the meat, and we processed the meat and took all the care. So we had kind of more of a relaxed. They did some walk around glassing, but didn't come up with nothing, except for the soda shop and chug water. That was amazing.
Tell you what, if you ever have the chance, go to the soda fountain in Chugwater, Wyoming. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's
Awesome.
Downtown.
Oh,
And it's beautiful. I love it. I could go back there today and have a burger
yeah, and a milkshake.
and a milkshake.
And so after that day, that was the Tuesday, we decided, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go ahead and have a little fun. We're going to draw some or buy some over-the-counter cow tags.
Yeah, but where are we going to do that?
Well,
I
we
mean,
didn't know,
we didn't know where to go.
and so we didn't know where we were going to go. And Wesley has a friend of his, and said, I could take you on my friend's ranch, and they always have cows there and that need shot. And there's a lot of help. And so thanks to Ryan Farley and his family for allowing us to come on his property. It was just a beautiful country, 60,000 acres, just a beautiful, beautiful ranch. So we got up there the first day and saw a lot of antelope all over the place. He said, we're going to take you down a little road, come back a little bit more of a mountainous area. And as we proceeded back there, the Wesley Rosengreen famous words is, there they are. And so we got out, put the glass on them, and turned out to be a couple bulls that we could see at that moment. But
Not the animals we were looking for.
No,
but some
no,
bulls.
no.
Some good projects.
But but Wes thought there should be some cows with them, potentially. So what if we go around to the back side, we could potentially see up in the canyon where they're at, and maybe there's some cows bedded in there that we can have an opportunity at. And so we proceeded to go all the way around the back side, and I'm telling you what, the country that we came across, unbelievable.
Yeah, some of my favorite scenery of the whole entire trip was in that one day on the Farthing Ranch, going around, just driving through some of those places. Absolutely beautiful. You could see
Deep canyons.
Oh, and you could see for miles and miles and miles. It's beautiful country. Love
Miles. It's awesome.
Temperature's perfect. It's 32 degrees. It's beautiful weather for elk.
it. Love it.
And we got around that backside, got out of the trucks, went down into that canyon, and we were basically above where we seen them before. And we could actually see down to where we were glassing them up here. And they weren't there. And so we're looking around and trying to find them, and we sat there for a good long while. And eventually, like I said, the famous Wesley Rosengreen saying is, there they are.
There they are.
Everybody turns and looks, and off to our east is these two bulls, and they were probably probably a good almost mile or so. I mean, from here, that's how long it didn't take them long, and they're just solo lone bulls, just heading up through.
No cows.
No cows, nothing with them, and they were. By the time we would be able to catch those bulls, if there was cows, unfortunately, they were getting close to the property boundary, which is funny. 60,000 acres, close to the property boundary. Mm-hmm. But yeah, but overall, it was a great day. That evening, we went back and sat in a little meadow overlooking this big meadow, and he's got some pictures of it. Beautiful meadow, beautiful country. Sat there till dark and came home.
Yeah, and all in all, we had a fantastic hunt. We filled all the tags that we originally came for. Obviously, these guys didn't fill their cow tags. Those are just some extra things. But all in all, a fantastic hunt, fantastic time with friends and family. And let me tell you, if you ever want to hunt in Wyoming, Rosengreen Adventures is the place to go.
Absolutely, with the hands down, I wouldn't pick any other place.